Today on the Movie Court, we'll be hearing the case of The People vs. Justice League, directed by Zack Snyder. Court is now in session. I'm Jacob Guardado, and this is my courtroom. Can the court official please hand me the records? Thank you. The opening statements are that this movie was directed by Zack Snyder, starring Ben Affleck as the Batman, Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, Henry Cavill as Superman, Ezra Miller as The Flash, Ray Fisher as Cyborg, Jason Momoa as Aquaman, and Ciarán Hinds as Steppenwolf. The court has reviewed this movie, and these are its findings. I walked in this movie with very little expectations. After the disaster that was Batman v Superman, I thought, how could DC get any worse? And to my surprise, they didn't. This was actually slightly better than that. Ever so slightly. But start with some of the pros before I get into the many cons. Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot are the only two things you're really going to get out of this. Ben Affleck plays probably the third best Batman, not counting the animated series one, and Gal Gadot playing Wonder Woman is still very good. It's pretty good. That's really about it. Now on to the cons. The movie's comedy was bad. It was terrible. It makes me rethink getting my degree in movie law. It was just terrible. The main proprietor of that, though, is The Flash. That every time he opened his mouth, it was just cringy and unfunny. It made my skin crawl. His only dialogue was to reinforce how quirky he was, how his quirky nature affected his life, or how he didn't understand what brunch was, or how he didn't have any friends because of that. It was just unfunny, and it made the movie so much worse because of it. The court rules The Flash unfunny. Now on to the pacing. The pacing was not very good. The movie basically starts off with Steppenwolf, our main villain, doing some very bad things. And then it goes on to Ben Affleck forming a team to beat said villain, because that's what the good guys have to do. And so he goes around going to some remote place in Ireland to find Aquaman, only to get rejected. And then to the best part, when he finds the Flash. And how this basically sums up how perfect the pacing is. The Flash goes off about not knowing what the brunch is, and then Batman just cuts him off and saying, "I'm building a team. Are you in?" And then the Flash says, "Of course," and they get in his car and they drive off. That is basically the pacing of this movie. It's quick, it's choppy, it makes the movie so much worse. The court finds the pacing choppy as Now on to the villain. Steppenwolf is a amalgamation of every cliche and every trope you've ever seen in a superhero movie or comic. Get this, the man wants to destroy the world. Okay, hold on, stay with me. Destroy the world with an evil doomsday device because, wait for it, he's evil. Now, I love original plots, but that was a little bit too much for me. All joking aside, though, the man was not interesting. He wasn't menacing. And that's the most criminal part about this. Every time he was on screen, I just kind of rolled my eyes. Oh, look, this tall man on a horny thing with a giant axe. Wow, so menacing. He wants to destroy the world. Oh no, will it happen? Well, I don't know. I was never afraid. I never felt any tension. I just felt bored. This man couldn't be any worse of a villain than a certain George Lopez in a certain movie. The court rules Steppenwolf not born to be wild. Now going on to all the other cast members in general. On to Cyborg, on to Aquaman. They weren't terrible, but they were just bland. It's like eating chicken that you don't put any seasoning on. It gets the job done, sure, but there's something special about it. Cyborg just kind of broods around. It's like, am I a robot? Am I a machine? I don't know. I don't know who I am. Aquaman's a Chad from Atlantis with tribal tats. I couldn't give two shits about him, honestly. Who else is there? There's Superman. He's in the movie for like 20 minutes. He says probably the worst line I've ever heard in my life. I hated this in Batman v Superman, but they just said, you know what? We need to use this in a better movie. A slightly better movie. He grabs Batman by the cowl and says, "Do you bleed?" But other than that, he doesn't get anything other than this, I don't know what, I'm back alive. How should I feel? And then he smashes Amy Adams in Kansas. And then he comes back to beat Steppenwolf because God knows no one else could do that. The court finds the character is one-dimensional. On to the CGI. To be frank, it wasn't very good. It was a waste of $300 million. When I go to a superhero movie, I want to be impressed because how much money they're dropping. But this one, it just felt copy and pasted and rushed. It felt very cheap, and it really took me out of the movie when I saw a bunch of like parademons fighting what was obviously Ben Affleck on a green set. So the court finds this to be essentially Shark Boy and Lava Girl 2017 edition. And the court recommends that DC add Mystery Electric to the expanded universe. The court now moves on to its final thoughts. Now, I thought that with DC making Wonder Woman, that they put their best foot forward. Wonder Woman not being the best superhero movie ever, but still being miles above whatever the Batman v Superman was. It was a good movie, and so I thought maybe with Justice League they had learned their lesson. But I realized something. On the poster at the very bottom, it says directed by Zack Snyder, and I believe that we all can say that Zack Snyder is not the best director, and so I tailored my expectations so. And so when I watched after I finished going out of the movie, I then thought to myself, wow, I was surprised because this movie was just painfully average. With all of its good and all of its bad, the movie just comes out to a simple average. All because everything about it was just so average. The CGI made it boring, the writing made it boring, the characters made it boring, save for Batman and Wonder Woman. Nothing about this movie made me want to care. It made me break the cardinal sin. As a degree-carrying movie fucking lawyer, it made me look at my phone because I was just so bored with the movie. This movie did not grab me by the balls and say, let's go for a ride. Nothing about this movie. It was just boring. So the court's final verdict is this movie is just really boring.